Hello there, my name is Brickell Long and I am the art teacher here at Wallace A. Smith, and I wanted to say thank you for volunteering your time. I'm going to give you a quick tutorial on how to get things ready for display for this art show. Let's go. So this is our Cafe Stageatorium, and on this stage is where we are going to go ahead and start preparing all of our stuff because we don't have any shows on the stage after our musical. So what we're going to do is we're going to start out by pulling off some extra butcher paper. There may already be plenty of pieces when you get here on the stage, but just in case you don't know how to use this, I wanted to show you. Each one of our pieces this year is going to have to be placed vertically on the wall, and they have to be about 9 feet long. In order to achieve that, I use these squares that are on the floor, the tiles, to kind of measure out 9 feet. So I get this in position, and I kind of just walk it back and count each square as I step back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And anything past that we can just kind of approximate. That part's a little trickier. If you want to use scissors, it's totally fine. And then we will put this on the stage. Just do your best not to crinkle and wrinkle it as much as possible, but this isn't the kids' art, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now that we're on the stage, we've taken our butcher paper either from the stage and put it on the white table, or we've cut some of our own. Then, if you look over here on this box, I'm going to be stationing projects that need to get mounted. Right now, I'm going to be showing you 2 different ways of mounting depending whether you're doing younger grade levels or older grade levels. Right now, I have a class of 4th grade work, and we'll talk about this in a moment. And then we also have a huge folder of 2nd grade work here that needs to get mounted. We're going to put one project on this large sheet of butcher paper so that it can be easily distributed back to students. Then on this table, we'll also have a few different supplies that may come up. You might need them. We have scissors in here. We have long glue sticks for hot glue guns in here. We have regular glue sticks in case you run out or the battery dies on this. Glue sticks are fine. Then we have a few different Sharpies. We've got some broad tip Sharpies, and then we've got some ultra fine tip Sharpies. These are good for using on the checklists. These are good for actually labeling for students. So I like to use the thicker one so we can see it at a better distance. Then we'll talk more about these labels when we start talking about the upper grade levels. So yeah, everything you should need is in this basket. If you find that you're missing anything or you get confused at any point, my art room is right next to the cafeteria, so I'm pretty easy to find. You're welcome to pop in and check in if you are confused about anything that's over here. Okay, here I have 2D's abstract Reggie Laurent inspired artworks, and this is what we're going to be mounting on this colorful paper. The reason I chose colorful paper for this is because this paper has a pretty primarily black background, and so we really want to give it that pop. Like I said, most of our artwork is probably going to get mounted on this black paper, but if you find something, a project that has primarily a black background, then that is definitely something we want to mount on a contrasting paper like this butcher paper here. Now you can see one that is already finished and it has been laid out on these risers over here. Each one of these pieces needs to get labeled with the student's name and their class code. And their class lists are going to match up right here. So you can see that we've already gotten this class checked off, and you'll notice that after all of these has been mounted on here, that one student didn't have this project completed, and this is just going to be a checklist. So 2nd grade has a lot of work right now. Some students might have 3 or 4 checks by their name or more. That's totally fine. It just gives me an idea of how many pieces need to go back to students when it is time to take artwork down and return it to each artist. So what we're going to do on this paper is we're going to make sure to kind of look at orientation. So I can tell the student drew a heart here. This paper should probably go this way, not this way. That's an easy mistake. If it happens, you can peel it up pretty easily. I would wait until hot glue is dry to do that. So with works that need to be horizontal, I would say you can fit about 9 on this whole sheet of butcher paper if they're horizontal. If they're vertical, I would say you can fit up to 6 rows. You want to be careful not to put it too close to the top or too close to the bottom, considering how long these papers are. We don't want work up way too high where students can't see it, or too far down that nobody's really going to look there. So we're going to aim for kind of that middle ground. So I'm going to come down just a little bit and see if I can arrange these. When I look at this paper, I want to make sure that as it's hanging over the table, that it's hanging evenly. That way my artwork isn't going to be cockeyed. And I noticed that this side has about the same amount hanging over the edge as this side. So now, if I find an incomplete student work, I'm going to put that back into the folder. Some of them are more obvious than others. This student didn't get finished with this. So we're going to set this aside for now. And then we're going to start arranging these. Now, with the abstract pieces here, it really doesn't matter which direction these face. With some of them, they're going to be all vertical. It just varies piece to piece, and I'm not particular about how exactly these get arranged. I would just say make sure that you're leaving at least an inch between each piece so that you are going to be able to label these really easily without running into any problems. So I'm just kind of laying these out. I would say that this one's probably done enough to hang up. And then again, I'm looking at orientation. So I see faces there. I'm going to make sure that those go upright. And I'm kind of just alternating these between being vertical and horizontal. If that's appropriate for that piece, then do it. If you're mounting a bunch of animals and they are all supposed to go upright, then put them all vertical. I love these works. Okay, so once we get all of these laid out, you're going to want to make sure that your hot glue gun is turned on and is heating up, because sometimes it takes a little while. I will let you know that I have had 2 scars from this glue gun. It is screaming hot, okay? So please proceed with caution. If you don't feel comfortable using the hot glue gun, it is more than okay to just go ahead and use the glue sticks. Okay, so here what I'm noticing is I'm kind of running out of room, right? This is why it's really important to put student class codes on work. I'm not even sure that I want to put these last rows in here actually. So I think I'm going to take these last 5 pieces that are complete and put them on the next paper that we bring over here. But it's important that these get labeled with class codes so that they go back to the right classroom when they come down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over each one of these pieces and see if I can read the name. Kindergarten is probably the toughest. Most of the rest of them have been practicing their handwriting, so they're getting a little better at writing their name. So I see that that belongs to Frankie, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to write Frankie's name in the left-hand lower corner. And I also see that this belongs to 2D. Everything that's in that folder should all belong to that same class. And that just tells me who their teacher is. If you make a mistake on this, you can always cut a new piece of butcher paper and add it over, or just mark it out. It's not really a big deal if you make a small mistake on here. A lot of times they can be fixed. So I'm going to do this for each and every piece, and then what we're going to do after all of this has been done is we're going to flip these over and add a little bit of glue to each corner. We don't need a ton of glue, okay? We don't want the students' work to rip when we take it off. So just a little bit, and then be sure not to set the glue gun on top of the butcher paper because it will drip onto it and it could mess up a student's work. If you do drip hot glue somewhere, let it dry first before trying to peel it off. And again, be careful, this is very, very hot. So if you look over here, when we're finished, this is what we're aiming for, is a full sheet of paper with a little bit of space at the top, a little bit of space at the bottom, and each piece labeled with the student name and the class code. Once we've done that, we're going to go through the class list and we're going to check off each student that has that piece mounted. Okay, so in my hand I'm holding a 4th grade group of WOW projects, which stands for Wonderful Original Work of Art. And these students spend time in whatever studio that they want to during open studio time, coming up with an original idea, and they spend a lot of time on this. So a lot of these students have artist statements that go along with the piece that they were creating. And so we want to make sure that these get displayed side by side. One thing you want to check for is that the students' names matches up. You can see here they've used a gallery tag. If a student is missing a gallery tag, you can always check in this basket, fold that slip in half, use a glue stick to put it underneath that paper and hang it off the edge. It should have at least the student's name on there, and if they filled it out correctly, it should have all of this information on it as well. And this information should match up with what is written on their artist statement. So if you get confused, just check for those things. We're gonna go ahead and arrange these with the artist work on one side and the artist statement on the other, and then on the next batch we will flip-flop that. If a student doesn't have an artist statement with their piece, you might even get one of these pieces of paper that says SM or MS, like missing statement or statement missing, and that just means the student didn't do a statement for this piece, but we're still going to hang it up. We're going to save that for like the bottom of this row, so we're going to move these up towards the top. And again, we leave about a foot of space, and that's the only thing that goes in this row is these two pieces. We really want to showcase this work. So we're going to put those side by side. We'll bring our stack up here with us. Okay, and so since this one went this way, we're going to do this way with this one. You should be able to figure out the orientation depending on where they put their gallery tag if the picture isn't already obvious. In this case, it really is. And then again, I'm making sure that it matches up with that student's name and then that student's name. These should be pretty organized for you already though. If you notice, like right here, I'm noticing, okay, there's a lot of black. If we want to kind of break that up, one thing we could do is move some of these down. This is just like a picky thing. You don't have to do this. But what I'm going to do here is just kind of flip these around just to kind of break it up and make it more visually interesting. Okay, something like that. We're going to keep everything centered. And then I'm going to move this one down even one more and put this purple one up above it. So kind of alternating sides each time. So this time the artist statement is on the left, work is on the right. Here, we're going to flip it, just kind of bring our eye around the piece. So we'll lay all these out and then we'll follow that same process where we add glue to each one of the corners, stick it down, do the same for the statement, and then once we get this piece moved over into this stack, we'll check this class's work in the 4th grade pile. I'm looking for 4B. And there's 4B. So since Olivia and Tristan have it, I'm going to check them off. Okay? So I also wanted to mention that if you find a student's work that does not have a name on it or you can't read the name, feel free to check the class lists that are back here if it's just like a spelling thing you're not sure. But outside of that, if it's just missing a name altogether, but it was with that class's work, go ahead and put it on the paper and just put the class code. That'll at least help me get it back to the correct teacher and then they can sort it out from there. Okay, so if you end up having to create labels or get student work ready if it's a 3D artwork, like this beautiful dragon eye that a student made, we're going to just check for the same thing. We're going to look for that class code. And this is that same piece of paper that we talked about before, folded in half, but this time we're going to make it a name tent. And so it's going to sit upright just like this in front of or behind that student's piece in the art show. So what we're going to do is we're going to check for the name back here. If there is a class code, put one. If there's not, then we will leave that blank for now. If you really want to go the extra mile and check it against class lists, if you know what grade level did that project, you're welcome to. So we're just going to write her name on here and we will add her class code. Then we can stand that up with the piece and it will be ready to go on display.